Hello, everyone. It's Jamal Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. Guys, I have an awesome interview today. This has been short notice, so I absolutely appreciated her saying yes on short notice. But I have Tezlyn Figaro, and I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that right. Tezlyn, please tell the audience hi. And did I pronounce the name correctly?
Hello, it is Tezlyn Figaro, but however people
Figaro.
pronounce it is
Oh,
fine with
that's
me.
it. Okay, I'm sorry.
No problem.
All right. So you've been brought to my attention. I have to be honest, I didn't know that you existed up until the point of a few days ago. And you come to my awareness based on what I consider to be somewhat of a scandalous article written by Politico attacking our revolution and attacking Nita Turner and essentially using you as somewhat of a club to do it. Um, just to just so the audience can understand what's taking place. I think they do know, but just in case somebody's coming to this video where they're unaware of what's been taking place. Nina Turner runs Our Revolution. In running Our Revolution, article comes out in Politico saying that there are problems with the group. Man, mind you, they made this case a few years prior, said that there were no wins with the group. This was just flat out lie. No major wins, but major is one of those terms that doesn't really mean anything. It's somewhat subjective. And they were stretching the subjectivity of that term majorly in order to even say major. And they tried to make this case that certain races that that these guys didn't get involved in was a problem, meaning they should have gotten involved in races that I honestly have no idea why our revolution shouldn't have got involved in with regards to the workable point of view of the group. And that she tried to make certain hiring decisions that not just were antithetical to the group itself, but also that 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 this went well beyond what the group would have wanted. And that Nina Turner essentially was kind of overstepping her bounds when she did this. You were one of the people at the center of this attack, saying that she just tried to plop you on and that you had no experience in any of this. And, Nina Turner's just trying to throw a weight around, and everybody in the group and the board is pointing the finger at Nina Turner. All of this stuff, all of this drama ended up on the pages of Politico. And Politico writes another one to dance on your grave when it comes out that, you're separating and parting ways with our revolution. So just to knock down some of that, what was your role in our revolution? And is it true that you have no experience whatsoever of the position that Nina Turner tried to put you in?
Okay. Well, first, I appreciate you allowing me an opportunity to speak. Unfortunately, Politico never did. They never contacted me for the first article, the second article, and the third article, which I thought was amazing. They interviewed everybody but me. You're absolutely right that the article was about 40, I believe, 40, 50 paragraphs, I believe, of information that had nothing to do with me. There was one paragraph, a paragraph or so about me. The reason why that paragraph was zoned in on, why it was so important, why the board members, the only two, former board member Lucy Flores, current board member at the time, Catalina Vasquez, who has now resigned after I did my interview exposing what really happened, is no longer on the board. Those two board members chose to speak upon just my part. Never anything else. There were other board members that spoke about the races and, spoke on other issues. These two board members were the only ones that decided to profile, if you will, their concern with me. So let me just explain as quickly as I can. I know we don't have all day, but explain as quickly as can how that happened.
You're not in a rush. We're not rushing at all. I want you to explain your case because, like you said, they didn't really give you an opportunity to explain your side of it. It didn't seem like they even cared. They just wanted the story.
No problem. Well, I appreciate that. Well, Senator Turner, contrary to popular belief, she is an adult woman, makes her own decisions. No one is in her head making her think one issue over another. She took the position on Our Revolution. Her needing me to continue to do her booking, events, media, and so forth, which I did prior to Our Revolution. She needed someone that already knew, her schedule and how to manage things. She went into a new organization. I came in as a consultant solely just to do that. When when Senator Turner took over the position in Our Revolution, she was inundated with requests for her to go everywhere, all over the country. We've had over 150 requests. With people just saying, we want Nina. Not requests that we solicited, but requests that people, where they know she took the role. There's a big media rollout about it. And the first thing that they wanted was to touch her, love on her. The first thing she wanted to do was to go around and actually meet with these groups, which is why when she took over our revolution, it was about 400 and something plus groups. Now, in less than a year, having been a year yet, there's 600 groups. She has grown the group substantially since she was there. And so because of that, there was envy, because I was the one placing her at the 35 different states in 8 months, just to be honest with you.
Yeah.
There was envy among other women on the board. Lucy Flores said flat out that it wasn't the Nina Turner show. They consistently had issues with her feeling as if she was inserting herself into these positions, that she was inserting herself into these speaking engagements. But if anybody's ever heard Senator Turner speak, I mean, she blows your mind away. It's a reason why I fell in love with her, and so many others do. It's the reason how she won me over. So that was an issue when she initially came to the board. Lucy Flores said in Catalina that Latino issues were not being addressed, which was a lie. Our revolution is a multifaceted organization. The mission and the vision is very clear because it's inspired by Senator Sanders.
That's right.
Even if we feel that one group doesn't get the attention that another one should, or what time, how much time should we spend on one over the other? Because we worked on a range of issues.
Right.
It didn't mean that one was less important than the other. And it was a matter of how much time can be spent in one day with a small staff that is managing 600 groups all over the country. How do things get prioritized?
Yep.
I was a national racial justice director on the Bernie Sanders campaign, which that's one part that Politico left out, and we'll get to my experience here in a moment. Mm-hmm. But even working on the Sanders campaign as the national racial justice director, I feel that the Sanders campaign did not spend enough time on the African-American issues. This is why we have such just a handful of Black folks who are involved in the progressive movement.
Let me add something to that point. Jesus Christ, this is an echo. I think people are hearing an echo. I agree with you on this, right? So when I read that part of the article, I thought Politico has been around. Our revolution has been around for like 2 years. And in being around for like 2 years, they've done a huge amount of work. I mean, half of the races that they put their stamp on won. I mean, they've expanded magnificently from the time that the group was formed to where it is now. I look at this stuff as everyone has a lens. There's almost impossible. In fact, it is impossible. There's no such thing as objective reality. People have a lens through which they look at the world. That's just the way we are. That's where we're left with relative perspectives. There is such thing as somebody in the group who says we need to focus more so on this particular issue or that issue, but that's their lens.
Right.
It's not necessarily objective reality.
And I want to finish because I certainly don't want to. I want to make sure I'm keeping a stopping point on exactly what happened. Okay, so even while working on the campaign as the African American Outreach Director and people didn't even know racial director even existed on the campaign. That's how poor of a job I believe that we spent on African American issues. Yeah. It didn't make me go blast out Senator Turner. Senator Sanders. You need to do more for Black people. It was enough folks doing that.
Yeah.
What I did, what my role within the organization was, do my part. I was very instrumental in Michigan, Flint, Michigan, to be exact. I spent about 2 months there. The reason why he met with the Black folks that he did in Flint, Michigan was because I solely went and organized that myself. My superiors will attest to that. I felt that since we were doing a debate in Flint, Michigan, him against Hillary Clinton, and since Hillary Clinton pretty much had all the Black people sold up, it was my job to at least make sure there was some African-American outreach. So I went, while my mother had cancer, by the way, which we'll get to in a moment, and made sure that there were Black people that Senator Sanders could meet and talk to and feel their pain. Because of that, now again, it's not taking credit for winning the entire, Michigan upset, but it was a substantial, it made a huge impact because he had an opportunity to speak to Black people, to understand. I took him being from the senator from Vermont, obviously from a different generation than I've been in. Let's just be flat out about it. Around a lot of white folks his entire life. It didn't make me categorize him as a racist or bigot, to me, it was an opportunity to gain understanding, for him to have an opportunity to say, hey, sit down with some Black folks, listen to how we feel. And so because thankfully, Becker, who gave me the opportunity to organize in that way, he was able to be shown a new light, something different. Mm-hmm. He used it in his campaign speeches moving forward about his meeting with the Flint ladies. He did commercials off of it. I believe that it made a big difference with him in why that race was won. Not only that, he went back just a few months ago to meet with the same people that I introduced him to there. So just making that point that in the progressive movement, we all have issues that we feel are not getting enough attention.
Yes.
Black folks, Latino folks. By the way, I'm Afro Latina. I know they don't believe in that because I'm not light enough, but I'm Spanish and black. You have LGBT. You have, issues, male issues, female issues. You have white folks that have issues that they feel they can't express because if they express it, they're called a racist or called a bigot. So in December, Erica, a former employee, and I'm only using their name because they chose to defame my name. Otherwise, I wouldn't say their name, but they used mine, all three of the ladies. So I have to defend myself, right?
And you're talking about the board members at this point?
Correct. So in December, and also the employee, Erica, who's no longer there, she made a big long post about it as well. Okay. In December, she was pushing for DACA, and I applauded her effort. I was a consultant at the time. She was in New York. It was amazing in her post that she said she found out she was fired and I was later hired, which is a lie. Because while she was working on DACA issues in New York, I'm the one that was helping her clear up her desk. Yeah. I had an assignment to make sure that the research she was in, and one of her duties was focusing on endorsements. My job, I went in, I changed the system so that it can make it easier for us to research the vetting process. When an organized catched her up on about 20, 30 candidates. So I was shocked when she put out her statement saying that I was fired, that she was fired and I was later hired. First of all, I'm a consultant. You don't fire consultants, or we walk away. So let's first get that straight. I'm not going to speak on why she says let go, why my understanding was she quit, because that's not for me to speak on. But I'm just trying to paint the picture. When she left, this is using her statement, she said she had screenshots of what I said in 2017. Now, mind you, I was not with Our Revolution as a consultant at the time. Neither was Senator Turner. Mm-hmm. She said admittedly in her statement that she had screenshots then. So that draws evidence to she had this information for about 5 or 6 months. She chose not to say her disagreement with my comments until it became convenient.
Yeah.
It became convenient because as Lucy left the board in April, because of the same issues that she was having, this had nothing to do with me being considered as chief of staff. She left the board. After Lucy left, she then encouraged Catalina to keep pushing Latino issues. In the board meeting, now let's go back. There were a lot of Black organizations that reached out that also wanted to see Senator Turner as well.
Yes.
Catalina, and why? Because Black people have been wanting to be a part of it. Senator Sanders' campaign did not do the best job, in Black outreach. Black folks still see Senator Turner as Black. And so they were excited to see, right? They were excited to see a Black woman as a leader over a group, 600 groups all over the country and international.
And by the way, just so we're clear, it went beyond it just being it needed Turner being Black, though. I mean, like, I understand what you're saying, like from the standpoint of all of these different groups are vying and pulling to try to get the things that they want because all Correct. Of them have their particular issues. African Americans are also, we have our issues and the things that we want. And you can't just put somebody on blast, like in this kind of loud way, claiming that the guy's a racist and everything else just because he wasn't attentive to your issues. Your point is, I've been pushing trying to get it.
Right. Well, once you hear all the drama, it'll make sense. So in the board meeting, Catalina asked, I ran down the list of all the different people, that she's been placed. And she asked, why not place? How do you get these requests? I said, well, they come in. They're not, I don't go find them. They come in. And she said, well, why are you not? What about, she mentioned 4 or 5 different Latino groups, where Senator Turner can speak. And I told her, absolutely. If you feel that we should, go solicit these groups or let them know she's available to speak or whatever, that is absolutely fine. Senator Turner's goal was to go to all 50 states by the end of the year. She wanted to meet with the OR groups. That was one of her goals. I said, absolutely. Give me whatever information you feel that we should have. I told her flat then I had no problem with that. First of all, I'm Latino and Black. Again, I know that doesn't matter to them, but I have no problem with that. Give me the information that you need. And she said that she would. So I thought that it was a done issue. The issue came because, again, this was inner fighting with Catalina, Lucy. And so when Senator Turner was changing the organizational structure. It wasn't about putting me in a position. It was about changing the organizational structure. The previous executive director left under good terms in January. So there was not a project manager, if you will, to map out, what projects got done, but we have division directors that cover every area: organizing, political, communications. There's managers that cover their own, section.
Mm-hmm.
There was a gap in management for about 5 or 6 months. Senator Turner decided to, instead of having one executive director be over everyone, she wanted an organization that had a chief of staff that managed 3 groups and a director of operations that managed everything else. Both titles were equal. So you had your compliance, your operation. So she was changing the organizational structure.
Right.
I was one of the ones that were considered. It wasn't about being inserted. First of all, the article said she's my friend. She's not one of my friends. She was my client. So let's first get that straight.
Yeah.
There was no nepotism involved. Everything I've done, I've earned, and we'll cover that in a second. Second, she wanted the structure to have balance, to make sense, to have people that had experience in various areas to contribute to those areas and basically project manage.
She's building an organization. Yeah.
Correct. She's building an organization. The previous executive director, who I adore, I don't want to throw his name out there because I don't want to make this about him, but I have to draw the parallel. He's someone, great guy, was certainly involved in the Sanders campaign, young guy. But still, when you compare my experience with working at the first and third largest staffing firm in the world, with starting my own staffing firm, this is documented on the internet, starting my own staffing firm with 0 employees. I took 300 volunteers and I made them paid employees in less than 3 years. I won 40 Under 40, 2010 with Orlando Business Journal. I won Women Who Mean Business with Orlando Business Journal 2012. I won Community Cadillac Influence. I've been awarded 3 times based upon my staffing.
There's also just so people understand, the reason why you're saying this is because Politico made this point that you had no experience.
Correct.
That this person, Nina Turner, tried to insert her buddy into this position who had no experience at all, and this is just this kind of nepotism and this cronyism inside our revolution. That was their claim. And you're saying that claim is bogus.
I'm saying it's absolutely bogus, and he never asked for my information. All of my information that I've done since I've been in this game over 15, 20 years is all on the internet, on my website. He never put that in there. He never talked about the fact that I've been in this game over 15 plus years. I've worked on the local level, the federal level, the state level. I've listed campaigns that I've worked on, my roles within that. I've listed, by the way, each one that I've won. I've listed every organizing event. I've listed all of the media that I've done. I've worked 3 of the most high profile cases in the last couple of years as a crisis comm. So in my area, my job would have been, if she would have selected me, project managing things in communications, making sure things get done, which I have experience in. I was the lead crisis communication consultant for the Hoscoff case in Oklahoma City. That is where Officer Hoscoff raped 13 Black women and received 263 years. Attorney Benjamin Crump, who was Trayvon Martin's attorney, Tamir Rice's attorney, Mike Brown's attorney, that is my client. I've worked his cases. He has said on video, this is all stuff that's available on video. Had it not been for Tezlyn Figaro, he wouldn't have ever known about this case. I went to the United Nations as a comms director to speak on this case for these women. I worked the Orlando Pulse shooting as a crisis comm, the senior, the main of the 2 commissioners that were actually over the districts where Orlando Pulse actually happened. Yeah. Those were my clients. I managed the entire crisis from beginning to end. The Dallas police shooting, my client. When the Dallas police shooting happened in the rally, I wrote the speech, I did the comms, I did the entire crisis from beginning to end. In fact, that's how Senator Turner and I met, because my background was so impressive in comms, crisis, and so forth.
That's amazing.
So not only do I have experience in communications more than anybody in that office right now, that's just the bottom line. It's not to take anybody down, but it is the bottom line. I also have organizing experience. I can't say more than anybody in that office, but I'm older than most people in that office, so I've been in the game a lot longer. I'm the oldest, so I have more years under my belt in organizing. They even left out the fact that I organized for Senator Sanders for 6 months on this campaign. I lost my mother, who was diagnosed with cancer while I was organizing for Senator Sanders. I went home every other weekend to give chemo treatments. I had to bury my mother. I had to watch her die, pull the plug, go back onto the campaign trail that following week to organize for Senator Sanders, but yet Politico says that I have 0 experience. So they didn't even take into consideration what I did with Sanders. Then there was another department over political, which the political director position is still open. That was Erica's previous position. So when she wrote her post saying that she was fired and I was later hired, she positioned it as if I was hired for her position, because their narrative was, hey, they put me out because I was fighting DACA, and they put this racist in, which by technical definition, black people can't be racist, but whatever. They put this racist in to take my position, which is not true. That position is still open. But I have political experience as well. All of this is laid out on everything I've done in my career. Politico never called to give experience. Now, the problem that we have with this entire thing, it wasn't about me. It was the fact that Catalina and Lucy used this as an opportunity to uplift Erica's story of her feeling like she got put out because of DACA, which is not the truth,
Yeah.
and to use me as a vehicle to enrage the immigration community as well as the Latino community. Because now that cuts off Senator Turner from, obviously, we have work to do with black folks. That's clear. But now it cuts her off from the Latino community, and it cuts her off from the immigration community. And so it keeps pulling away from her power. The reason why it is so important is because even though we say trust black women to lead, it is a reason why the number one thing on Twitter 2 days ago was, I'm an angry black woman. And it was about the Waffle House case, Ben Crump's case, by the way, my client. When black women are attacked, when black women are put down, when black women are discounted for our experience, when black women are discounted because of our pay. Let's talk about equal pay, about how, yes, we fight for equal pay, equal pay, equal pay, but black women are still not paid equal to white women. We talk about the Me Too movement, but yet the Me Too movement was started by a black woman. But if you were to look at it on TV, you would think it is a white woman issue, Hollywood issue. When you talk about Me Too, and you don't talk about the Holocaust case, 13 black women were raped. The big Kerry Washington tweeted that case out for me to say this is the biggest rape case never heard.
Yeah.
When you talk about how when black people want to organize, the only time we matter is when our color is attached to something else. If you are a black immigrant, then you have somewhere to go. I'm well aware that there are black immigrants. People say all the time, well, you do know it's black immigrants. I get that because people rarely talk about Haitians. But when you are a black immigrant, okay, then you matter. If you're black LGBT, then you matter. If you're a black woman, then you can fall under women issues. When is it that it's just black and black alone? The only time that it is black and black alone is when it's Black Lives Matter. And you know what you're called when you organize the Black Lives Matter? A terrorist. So this is the frustration that black people have in the progressive movement, in the Democrat movement, on the Republican side, that although I can apologize for my comments being offensive to some, I will unapologetically be black. It was not my intent to take down one group to talk about another. But it is very important to uplift another. It is very important that our frustration is also realized. When I said, I used the wrong terms, we can get to the comments. When I said illegal immigrants, I came up in the 80s. Undocumented citizens was not a word that was used.
Yeah.
I apologize for the wrong choice of words. I was drawing a parallel that if immigrants, if they're illegal, if they break the law, and I was talking about criminals, I wasn't talking about all immigrants. I was saying that if immigrants do illegal acts and they break the law, then certainly the same way black people have to go to jail for crimes we did not commit, for crimes that we didn't even get a fair shake, that we had to take the plea deal, then certainly anybody else can. That goes for white folks, immigrants. I've made that parallel across the board. But they chose these particular tweets because it hurted Senator Turner specifically, and it made people question her judgment specifically. And then I'm going to let you speak. I'm going to say this one part. The same thing that and what they're doing now is doing the same thing that I advocate against. They created a narrative, never asked me one damn question. The board members, just think about it. What board member goes to the press to talk about a confidential meeting when they knew, this is the evidence, they knew I had already left?
Yeah.
Once Senator Turner said, we're having some issues with these past comments, I left. So to do a public, it says, look at the bottom of the article. It said that the consulting contract will end soon. We needed to tie up the things that she still had to do. She still had to go to Oklahoma next week. She still had to go to New Hampshire. She still had to go to Iowa. Those things needed to be passed on to someone else in the organization so that she could still be successful. These ladies knew, and I'm going to be clear, and if it offends anybody, oh well. They knew damn well that the contract was already over, but they used it as an opportunity to strike, to do that. I cannot blame this on the establishment this time. The establishment ran with it. Absolutely. Of course, Politico, if you come to them, just like if I go to Fox right now and say, look at how the left beats each other up, they're going to cover it. I didn't. I chose to go to the left community first. But the establishment ran with it. No question about that. But it was from the left. It was from the inside. It was from two jealous board members who are jealous of Senator Turner. They're the ones that gave all the information to Politico in an attempt to hurt her. Simple and plain. And they think I'm going to take the plea deal like all blacks have always had to do in this country because we don't have adequate representation. They think I'm going to take the plea deal and not get on the stand and position my case. And so that's why we're here today.
So there are a few things that I want to unpack with this. And I have an echo, and that echoes on my end. I think that goes my end. So there are a few things that I want to unpack with this because I agree with you. I looked at your comments. I looked at some of the comments. Comments didn't bother me, if I'm being honest. I mean, ultimately, you're talking about how people categorize it's considered to be a Democrat. It focused on identity to such an extreme that nothing else matters. Meaning, yes, they're going to attack Nina Turner with this because they're not going to look at the content of what you said. They're going to look purely at these little things that they can pick apart and use to try to hit you over the head with. The other thing goes against this thing of Nina Turner herself within the organization and how, again, using you as somewhat of a hatchet, they hit her with for something that you said. And I suspect the only reason this works is because within the Democratic Party, they focus on identity to such a degree that everything else becomes subordinate. So one of your comments saying illegal immigrants, if you were raised in the 80s, that's the way you understood it. I'm just saying. And if you're trying to get something across and you get something across in somewhat of a fast way where you want people to understand it in a quick way, you may use those terms that people within the Democratic Party would, scream at. So, oh my God, they said this and they're trying to hurt, our groups. When it's like, but what is the content of what I just said? I didn't mean anything by it. I was an outreach coordinator in this sense for multinational people within the Bernie Sanders group. I pushed for these issues heavily in the Sanders group and even in the organization itself. This seems like an attack that shouldn't be able to work. And yet it is, to some degree, at the very least, blown up into something that's, I guess, bigger than what it should be. I mean, you're talking about a staffing issue that they've blown up to these kind of political parallels or these political implications for Nina Turner's ability to govern.
But think about it. They wouldn't have ever known that had it not come from a confidential board meeting.
Yeah.
And nobody in the sense, oh, no, we had to do this to expose. No, it's a lie because the comments I made was not when I was with Our Revolution. There was no reason for her to say, pack your bags and get out and go right now. First of all, I've worked for some of the most high profile clients in this country. I have never left an unfavorable position. There was no need to tell me to leave and do this because I would never do anything to hurt her leadership, to hurt my brand, to have my words mixed with hers when I know that it has nothing to do with one or the other. I was totally fine with that. So because they knew, and that's the thing we have to key on, because they knew that I was leaving to still go out and do this to Senator Turner, it shows you it was ill intent. Board members have a responsibility, a fiduciary responsibility, that even if they disagree with how the organization is ran, whatever issues, they have responsibility to not try to blow up the whole organization. So that tells me Catalina and Lucy didn't give a damn about Our Revolution, didn't give a damn about Bernie Sanders' vision and mission. How does this hurt him? Didn't give a damn about the groups. This was a selfish move because Lucy Flores wants to run for office, and they gave it to the establishment to run with. So we have to.
Go ahead. Let me ask you this. So this is politics. I'm cynical and within the political landscape, meaning I don't put it past people who want to try to get some level of advancement, to put a knife in somebody else who they think they can essentially use that knife to pull themselves up higher. Sure. Is this what you think this is, or do you think this is local and ingrown? Meaning, do you think it's something that's isolated within the organization itself with people who just kind of want to move up within the organization? Or do you think it's somewhat motivated from something external in a way to hit Turner and to co-opt Our Revolution? Does it make
sense? No, I think it's both. I think it's both. I think, when you have an internal issue that blew up to some, and somebody threatens, Catalina literally threatened, to do this and then did it anyway. That's an internal issue, and they use the external hate for her, the external hate for Bernie Sanders, the external hate for Our Revolution, the external hate for, anti-establishment, and it became a beautiful tsunami, of let's make this bigger than what it is.
But the
The
tsunami
same.
makes no sense to some degree. I mean, they're essentially saying an
Well,
African American was being racist on Fox News and her tweets. And you look at the tweets and you're like, but I don't see it. Where is she being
yeah.
racist?
Well, you and I don't see it, but they see it. So when they put it to their groups, oh look, this vile, disgusting person must leave OR. I will leave OR before she gets a chance to stay. When she knows damn well I was no longer there.
But this
This
is
was their political.
I'm sorry. No,
This
you're
was
fine.
their
I guess I'm
political
saying
motivation.
this is kind of my point. Where this doesn't fully make sense. People have the lens to which they look at the world, and with that lens, they come up with different perspectives based on their lens. But this stretches it. Like, this is one of those things where it stretches it so far to look at a comment saying, look, African Americans, and just to make the point, African Americans get put in prison 4 times more for the exact same thing as anybody else. If you were caught with a bag of pot, you would have 4 times more likely of a chance to get put in jail and to be in longer. That's just true. Like, and that was somewhat the context of what you were saying. It was like, I understand the focus on immigration issues, but we have issues too that we want to see attended to. It stretches the imagination.
They love saying, and a woman just said it that we've been arguing with on Twitter all day, where you're being divisive. Every time you say, okay, hey, what about black people? That's 90% Democrats. What about black people? I've always criticized the Democrat Party for this. It's called being divisive.
It should be divisive.
But yet,
that's not a bad thing. I mean,
go ahead. I'm sorry. When she's pushing immigration, I'm not allowed to say that's being divisive. I didn't say that's divisive. I'm saying I'll show up to your march if you show up to mine. Yeah. I'm saying if you want to do a women's march, I love everything that the sisters did at the women's march, but look at the handful of black women that actually marched at the women's march. Yeah. It was a handful. Why? Because black women don't feel like you are marching for their issues. When you talk about fair pay, let's talk about being fair pay first as a black woman to a white woman. So when you have these and you keep trying to sweep it under the rug and say, well, let's not talk about it. Let's just all come together. We're stronger if we're 99%. Black people continue to fall at the bottom of the barrel. If you have contracts that are minority, if you will, once you break down the minority, Donna Brazile put this out years and years ago before she exploded and said that it was rigged. Years and years ago, she did it in Politico and said that once you break down the contracts and you say minority vendors and you get down to black is less than 2%. Yeah. This has been an issue when it's come down to the power, when it's come down to the politics for a very long time. And that is why black people fell off after Barack Obama.
Let me ask you this. Are you a Democrat? I'm curious on this.
I am absolutely nothing. I'm absolutely nothing. I'm an independent. I refuse to be. When people say, oh, well, you're not progressive. Well, I fight for progressive issues. I believe in Medicare for all. I believe in free college, not for 4 years, but I think there should be a 2-year plan, most certainly. But I'm also a small business. I put 300 people to work. I know the importance. Most of those were felons. I know the importance of a small business being able to put people to work and to be able to have power at the pen. Black business owners have no voice because chambers of Congress typically line up with most right issues, taxes and things of that sort. So I work with I was the ambassador outreach director. I started the ambassador program at Central Florida African American Chamber of Commerce. And we struggle constantly with finding where's our political voice. Because if we line up with the Republicans, black folks say, oh, you're cooning, you're with the Republicans. If you say, okay, well, let's go over here with the Democrats, they have zero category for black business owners. So black business owners have nowhere to go, as far as hearing our voice as entrepreneurs. There's a big difference between corporate greed and small businesses. So so there's issues that I agree with both. I am for Medicare for all, but as a business owner, it put me out of business the way healthcare reform rolled out because I owned a staffing firm and you had to give people insurance and we could not afford that. So it put us out the equation. And when you put me out the equation, then that means Aaron Clark, who was on probation, doesn't have a job. He's on my web. These are the same people that I fought for. So I balance between both, and I refuse to be put in any bag based upon my color, my gender, or if I like one issue, it doesn't mean I have to be a socialist. Or if I like small business, doesn't mean I have to be a cap. You're going to deal with me issue by issue, and I know that's hard for people to do, but that's what it is.
God, I love you. You're right. Because it's hard to get people. Donald Trump, when he killed the TPP, I was like, good job, Trump. I'm glad you killed the TPP. When Donald Trump comes out and, tries to essentially rape the environment, oh, God, you're a horrible person. It's the issue. It's not the person. I'm not going to, fall in line with this thing of just every issue that takes place, you're, going for a particular party. Like, Like I will always amazed at the way. I give you another example. Donald Trump goes saying, "I'm going to meet with the North Korean leader." Now, when Obama said that, Democrats were perfectly fine with Obama saying that. Trump says that, "Oh my God, how dare he? How dare he?" Or you had this other thing where Obama putting people in prison for the Espionage Act. And then you end up with Donald Trump comes in saying he's going to lock up whistleblowers. The Democrats are like, we must protect the whistleblowers. We must protect the whistleblowers. Donald Trump is going to lock up whistleblowers. Now, I don't like Donald Trump at all. I think he's a horrible person. By the same token, that's nonsense and a certain level of hypocrisy that is mind-blowing. And yet it's something that takes place every day. You would have Democrats who stand by an issue based purely along the guidelines of their party, as opposed to whether or not they agree with the issue just as a human being.
And this is an example. Oh, I love our revolution. You know, Catalina sent a tweet out. Oh no, I support Goddess Turner, and oh no, I'm all about the mission. When you knew damn well you went and talked to the press.
That's amazing.
She wasn't expecting me to come out and say anything. I guess she didn't know me too well.
She tried to put a knife in our revolution and Nina Turner. And look, it might have even been. In my head, our revolution goes along with this kind of workable point of view of Sanders. Like Sanders has this idea of what he wants the world to be. And just from a political standpoint, you don't necessarily want to be completely aligned with the group. You want that group to have your perspective and just kind of go out and do its thing. You don't want things that the group says or needs to do to always fall back on you. Even though the article tried to make this tether between the two, like nobody's business, even though it even says it's not necessarily, connected to Sanders. If the goal of that was to dismiss somebody who has a particular workable point of view, and one of view that I will say Sanders fairly agrees with. I mean, they work together very closely, and I don't think she would have gotten a nod for our revolution if Sanders didn't necessarily fully approve on that. If they wanted to put a knife in her and somehow stop, let's say, put somebody else who's not as strident as maybe a Sanders-esque point of view, would this be the way to do it? I hope that question makes sense. Like, essentially, we don't like this external factor that's outside of the Democratic Party operating in this way. We need to get this more in line with the Democratic politics. Because if you notice, in that article with Politico, they were annoyed that you guys just didn't randomly support any Democrat that came up. You guys wanted Democrats who were somewhat similar to Sanders. And it also got into this thing of people attacking Democrats. It's like, well, yeah, if they're not standing up for the things you believe in, they're fair game. The whole point is not necessarily to be just another Democrat. The whole point is to try to change the way the system is from the standpoint of electoral politics by putting people in who represent more of the population itself. Mm-hmm. If this was a co-op mission, would this be the way they went about it? Or, and again, I know I asked this question before, but I'm asking this question on a deeper level. Is this something where the Democratic Party itself is trying to instigate itself into our revolution using this kind of, you can call it, smear campaign to do it?
No question. And it's not, it didn't start with Senator Turner. It won't end with her. This is why the infighting, the never agreeing, let's just saying, let's go along to get along. It was why I left the Democrat Party in 2012.
Yeah.
It has been an abusive relationship, where we go through the same cycle over and over. Abuse, abuse, abuse. Then comes the honeymoon, then abuse again, then abuse, abuse, then the honeymoon. I mean, it's the same cycle over and over and over and over. And since there's not room for me on the Republican side, I'm just stuck in the middle.
I argue that we're something else. Like, I argue we're something fundamentally different. When I watched many of your things on Fox News, I said to myself, yeah, I may disagree with her on some of this stuff, but I know where she's coming from. And it's this thing of, I'm not a Democrat by any stretch of the imagination. They don't represent what they said they do. This is, and the Republican Party is off the reservation on most of this stuff. So here I am. But I think a lot of people are there with us. I don't think we're alone in this. I think there are a lot of people who say the Democratic Party does not live up to their things that they say they represent, in which case, from the standpoint of our revolution, you have to attack them. I don't know how you get away from not having to go at them on certain issues when they're not living up to their responsibility. Is that fair? I mean, am I wrong on that?
Is only when we talk about politics, and it's funny because I wrote a fiction book years ago called Power, Passion, and Politics, it had all the good juicy stuff. It was a fiction book, but it was all about power, but it was very real on what I've learned from my no political experience. But this was about a power struggle. It was an internal power struggle, like it is in many other organizations. And she knew that they could light a fire to their groups, and their groups, without question, would follow. Because that's what we do in politics, right? We say, hey, this person's doing. We don't research. We don't ask the other position. We just say, oh, if such and such said it, it must be true. We do that across the board, black, white, Latino, whatever. And so they were able to strike a match on an already very sensitive issue because I was on Fox, even though I'm on Fox
right there.
talking about black folks, even though I'm on Fox, standing up for Senator Sanders, just the fact alone that I'm on Fox, you're
Right there.
immediately demonized, even though you have Democratic strategists that are on Fox. That alone, you're already automatically demonized. And I know I said I wanted to
Yeah.
talk about that.
And
I'm
I'm
on
going to
Fox.
ask the question, why Fox? Because the very step of being on Fox, they're going to say she's on a Republican network. Why is she on a Republican network? And somebody says she said bad things about immigrants. And so, she's guilty. Why are you on Fox? And when you're on Fox, what is the disposition you're usually upholding when you're on Fox?
The disposition that I'm always holding on Fox is anti-establishment, be it Democrats, be it Republicans. I think stuff needs to get shook up.
That's right.
They took the comment when I said, well, of course they're mad at Trump because he's not doing anything that is of the normal. Does that mean I agree with everything he's doing? Absolutely not. But we were talking about in the Twitter in the comment, he refuses to be politically correct. Yeah. Do I like it? No. Do I think things that are coming out of the administration have been racist? Absolutely. Do I like the fact that the war on drugs is now being put back on my people over and over? Absolutely. I mean, there's many things I can go on and on about, but my disposition always in my 2-minute hits, 5-minute hits, because you're not on to have long interviews like this, have always been anti-establishment, period. 2, I'm on Fox because as a media booker, my clients are all Democrats. All of my clients that I've ever booked, where they can go see this online, have been booked at MSNBC and CNN. I do not insert myself in places that my clients are on. That's number one, because there's a conflict of interest. If I'm working for you and saying, hey, interview this person, oh, but by the way, you can also interview me too, it creates a conflict of interest. Yeah. None of my Democrat clients will ever go on Fox, because if they do, they will get the same thing that I got. Oh, she's on Fox. Forget what she said. On Fox. Because it's unfortunate. I don't want to call people simple-minded, but we're not broad enough to say, hey, let me see what she's actually saying and why it's important. The same way Politico used this as an opportunity to push their issue, Fox isn't using me. I'm using Fox to be able to put my message out there to people as well. So you have this thing called internal, external pressure. Yet let's use Stacey Abrams' race. Jammu Green and I, who we disagreed on Hillary Clinton, but when it came down to the Stacey Abrams race, because Jammu Green and I had a big debate about the system being rigged. She said that it was, and I said that it was. But when it came down to
I greatly dislike that woman. But during the Democratic primary, during the race at the end of after everything was said and done, they were running for who were going to be head of the DNC, essentially Tom Perez and all these other guys. And Jammu Green was one of those people who were running in the race. Everybody in the race was all of a sudden progressive. Everybody was saying we're united. After 15 million people had left the party, they're still lying, saying that they're united, that there's nothing wrong, the world is great, there are unicorns and rainbows. And you're looking at these people are seething, watching these people dance and shake on stage, saying the stuff that everybody in the audience knows is wrong.
Well, I asked Jammu Green, which you should watch our clip. See, that's the part they didn't put out there with my other comments. I challenged Jammu Green and said, while you're standing up for Hillary Clinton, where was she when you were running for DNC chair? They absolutely did not support her as a black woman, although they say black women should be the one to lead. Whether I agree with her or not, where was Hillary Clinton? Her answer was, well, I'm sure Hillary Clinton was busy. So her and I had a big debate about the system being rigged, not being rigged. But when it came to Stacey Abrams, and this shows the importance of internal, external pressure, outside the balloon, inside the balloon. Fox is outside the balloon. Jammu Green and I, after the Roy Moore race, and when black women led that to victory in Alabama, we both said, we want to know, are they going to support Stacey Abrams in the same way? Will the Democrat establishment support Stacey Abrams in the same way? So when you have Jammu Green and I saying it on Fox, when you have Angela Rye and Senator Turner saying it on CNN, when you have Joy Reid saying it on MSNBC, regardless, we all have our fans and we all have our enemies. But just think about that. How many black women pundits are there in cable news? Just think about it.
Yeah,
very few. So when all of us across the spectrum is pushing for, if you really like Black Girl Magic, prove it by supporting Stacey Abrams. All of that plays into Stacey Abrams winning 70% plus. Whether you like it or don't like her as a candidate, I'm trying to paint the picture on how it is necessary that all of those voices, left or right, all push the same type of pressure.
Mhm.
Because although Democrats claim they don't watch Fox, somebody's watching something because they're number one rated. They steady talking about what Fox is talking about. So somebody has to be over there pushing the issues too. And
Yeah.
I'm okay. I tell people all the time, hey, I'll lay on the cross for the issues that I've said. I have no problem with that. You want to attack me all day for what I said, that is absolutely fine. But don't attack Senator Turner as if she's not a thinking, educated, 50-year-old woman who's grown, damn grown ass woman, if you will, excuse my French, who has been in
You're fine.
politics,
You're an adult.
who has dedicated her entire life, who makes her own decisions, who manages a group of a couple, a dozen or so individuals. Those individuals make their own responsibilities. I wasn't there to push my ideology. I wasn't there to push my views. I wasn't there to change anything. They know it and I know it.
You're there to
This
do a
was
job.
simply about hurting Senator Turner because she won 1 out of 18 to watch in Politico, same organization, ironically. 1 of 18 to watch in 2018. She made the Essence 100 Woke Women, which last year she did not, this year that she did. Every time she goes on an event, her profile is being increased more and more. People are hashtagging Nina Turner 2020. That's what this was about. It was internal jealousy to turn her down. And if they disagree to it, all you simply have to do is look at the article. At the bottom of the article, it said the consulting contract would end soon. So why are these two board members, former and current, the only ones, not the other board members, the only ones speaking on that issue? It is because those are the only ones that had an issue with her personally. It had nothing to do with me. I won't allow them to tear down Senator Turner's record that way, the same way I won't allow them to turn down my record that way. So I will continue these interviews, and we will continue every media hit they do. I'll do one too.
And
This
you
is
should
not
say
about.
something. I mean, by the way, you should say something. I mean, these guys are coming out saying, and because there are two things. I'm realizing, just talking to you, there are two issues here. One, you have a political firm yourself, meaning consulting firm yourself, meaning them acting as if you have no experience on this. You don't want that to shed any bad light on the good work or the work that you've done over the course of X number of years with all of these different clients. You don't want that to shed bad light on that at all. So right there by itself, I would imagine chafes. It's a, how dare they say this when I've been this accomplished? The secondary issue on this sounds like identity to some degree. I'm an African-American woman who's working in this thing. I built this for my own from the ground up, and they're acting as if what I've done, all of my works, amount to nothing. And that's nonsense. Does that make sense? Are those the two main things where it feels like they're digging you on?
Makes sense. You're never, Shirley Chisholm talked about it all the time. You're never good enough, you're never qualified enough, you never have. If you look at the pay scale, if you look at the fact that African American women are more educated than black men, but yet we're not paid the same. These are the issues that we keep talking about over and over. If you look at even in the Black Lives Matter movement, even though we don't get the support that we should outside. And I know there are plenty of white, Hispanic, Latino, whoever that stand up for Black Lives Matter. So I'm not saying that. In fact, I know there's more non-people of color who help us fight our issues than our own. We have our own housework to do too. I'm not negating that.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is when black men get shot, how many people really stood for Sandra Bland the way they do for black men? So black women have been silenced in that as well. And I've worked on these cases. So it's been across the board. It's not just, I've talked about this across the board. This was just one thing to make an issue that was they were more concerned with than the other issues, that affected others as well.
They did. So, it's like all of these things that you've worked on that kind of pull up your bona fides in regards to this kind of multiculturalism and so forth. They completely ignored purely for this kind of political hit job. Essentially, you were used as somewhat weapon, this kind of politicized weapon to try to hit Nina Turner on this point.
No doubt. And Politico ran with it because they were looking for a weapon. I could do if I were to call them the producers at Fox that I work with who constantly call me, by the way, I don't take every hit because I only want to speak on things that I truly believe in that are important, important issues. If I were to call Fox, if I were to call Fox right now and say, hey, let me talk about how Democrats are infighting. How quick do you think I would be on?
Oh man, they would pick that phone up in a heartbeat. Hey, we're glad to see. Hey, because let me talk about that for 1 second. I have a few questions, but let me hit that one.
Well, let me finish my one sentence. Not only would they pick it up, they would run it continuously. It would be a continuous cycle, back to back to back to back to back. The reason why I'm trying to go to progressive media, particularly black, just being straight up, I have no problem interviewing anybody. Yeah. But because it's important that we have this family fight. Let's have this family conversation. If you're truly about wanting to understand my position, because I certainly want to understand other people's position as well. In fact, Catalina, it pushes transgender issues. When she came into our board reading, she said some things that were very offensive, talking about her anatomy. I didn't tell her, oh, that was offensive. Why did you tell me about your anatomy? Even though I wasn't concerned about what's going on between. I mean, she was very explicit. What she has, I have this, and that makes people uncomfortable. I told her, Catalina, I have never seen a presentation that way. I think you should speak more. I've never had to introduce myself as a pronoun. My name is Tezlyn, she, her, him. I mean, I just didn't. I've never had to do that.
It never crossed my mind.
Yeah, and I told her, I've never seen it. And I think you should be out there talking more. That's what's so crazy about it, is because she was able to show me something different that I didn't see, but she never picked up the phone and say, hey, you know what? I've met you. And I get the impression this probably is not who you are since you bust your ass on the Sanders campaign. Can you tell me what you meant? That conversation was never had. It was encouraged to be had, but she never did it. So when you look at steps that people took to avoid talking to me, to avoid telling my story, to invade my privacy as a consultant at an organization, with legally they're not supposed to do, by the way, then you have to wonder, what is somebody's motive? This wasn't somebody from the outside. This was somebody from the inside. Who does that? Just ask yourself, what company have you worked for that did that? Unless there was an ulterior motive, because the problem had already been resolved. It had already been resolved. I live in Houston, they're in DC. There was no pack up, move out, this dramatic call for the firing. I'm no Omarosa. You know, oh, she was left, but now she's saying she left on her own, but really she's fired. No, I'm kinfolk. You know how they say kinfolk? Yeah. I'm kinfolk. So there's no switching of the story. Because I adore Senator Turner the way I do, and everybody knows it, I would never want to do anything that would hurt her, the movement that she's working on, and to be quite honest, the 3 years that I've spent working on this movement.
No, I understand that. And I think it comes across. Like, it's one of those things where people can understand where you're coming from. And I look, if I was in a situation where I worked with somebody and knowing a certain level of accomplishment, fully understanding my own accomplishment, meaning it's not insecurity and everything else. It's, yeah, I've done this in my career and I am proud of the things and the work that I've done. And then someone on this big, loud scale smears it. And that just smears it. Used it almost as a weapon in order to attack. I can totally understand where you're coming from with that. It smears you, it smears your company, and it smears the work that you've done on the previous political campaign to get Sanders to where he is. I totally understand it. Totally get it.
And let me also say this, you know, well, why Senator Turner can't tell this story? Because she's a leader, a real leader.
But she's she's in a political organization. It's the same reason that Sanders separates himself from the organization.
The board members can't tell this story because they're real leaders. So it really puts them at a disadvantage, because the only thing she could do on the second article that came out was, you know, Tezlyn is still part of the organization, because there were things we were tying up. The first thing said I was leaving. The second one said that I was, because they wanted to bully her into making some, oh, you know, you said this, so now she's out the door. I was already out the door. You know what I mean? So, and then they used that. You know, they went back and
dancing on your grave. That's what it felt. It felt like, here's the second article saying that the woman is out. And it was like, we've run this article, and our article was able to get this woman kicked out of the organization.
And it was all a lie, because you didn't get me kicked out of a damn thing. So like the old folks say, the grave you dig for me is the one you dig for yourself. See, it wasn't no dance on a grave. Because see, I appreciate you saying that, but I want to be clear.
That's what it felt like. I mean, I read that article, and that's what it felt like.
In case those who think they had any advantage over me, I'm a bona fide hustler. Everything I got has been on my own. So there was no taking from, removing from this sad tragedy, victimized story that they want to put out there. This was a mutual, let's not affect anything that you're doing over me.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't that serious. You know, but if we want to break it down and talk about, you know, my experience, yes. If we want to say that I'm more qualified to manage hundreds of people, it was a demotion. Going from managing 300 to 13 is a demotion. Yeah. The previous executive director did not have the experience that I had. Nobody in that office has the experience I've had, nor has that board asked to see anybody's credentials, anybody's experience. They don't want to have this conversation with me. But see, I can go even deeper into the conversation, even back to the campaign, on the things that I saw. But I don't do that, because out of my respect for the organization and where they're trying to go. I can talk about every client I've ever had and things that I saw and things that I agree with and didn't disagree with. But when you're working within an organization, you resolve those issues. And if you don't resolve them, you part ways. It's that simple. But when you go out and try to blast somebody, then it shows that you have a manipulation. Yeah, that's bigger than just me, because I don't plan on running for office, and I never damn will. So you didn't hurt me.
Goes to the press like that, like
right? You didn't hurt me.
If this kid is getting molested, maybe, but not for. I need to tell you about a hiring decision that's taking place in our revolution. Nobody does that,
especially when it was already resolved.
Amazing.
So the thing is, I'm not running for office, so it doesn't hurt my feelings. It doesn't. Do you think I get on national TV and think that I don't piss folks off, that I don't get death threats? Do you think that every time I get on TV, I expect everybody to agree with me? Do you think people don't ostracize me? Do you think when I was working at the Alfred Hoscove case, I was living next door to the police station, literally to the police station of the police officer that I was calling out? Every day that I pulled out of my driveway, it was a police car behind me. Every time they pulled me over, I didn't know if I was Sandra Bland, because I was going against the entire establishment in Oklahoma City that was trying to cover it up. These are things documented. And so when it was time, when the media came around, I did the same thing that I'm doing now with this case. When the media came around and said, oh, we're covering this rape case, I was the one that got on the mic and said, I am ashamed. It is a damn shame that while I begged you to cover this story over and over and over, none of you showed up, but now you're showing up now. This is the same thing that I'm doing with this. See, I will expose you. I will tell the truth on what you really did and how it really went down. And that's the part that they were not expecting, because they didn't know me. So now
just kind of be silent and just go over
be silent. Let me put a letter out and say, after much thought and consideration, I'm coming with humble heart and heavy heart and all of that copy and paste mess that people write, just insert name here and insert apology here and go. No. That's not how it works. That's not how it works. What we're going to do is tell the story over and over repeatedly. And if people want to know why I left, then you can know I'm no longer there. And these are the reasons why I left.
Because the moment that people read the article, the moment that your name comes up, a lot of people will say, okay, let me look up what's taking place. And they would see this. Or they would see, the thing with Tim Black, or they would see your side of this as opposed to what, Politico has been saying. Let me ask you this. So one question on Fox News. I understand you say that, you're using Fox News. I often look at these things as everyone has their own machinations about what they're trying to accomplish and whatever they're doing. And there becomes this kind of mutual beneficial thing. From the Fox News standpoint, Fox News is getting something out of this. Everybody likes having somebody else on the other side to punch their side, if that makes sense. The moment that you're not a Democrat, it becomes much easier to point out the flaws of Democrats, making it a little bit easier to appear pretty much on any network. Somebody asks you a question, you tell them the answer that you feel. And if you're on Fox News likes it, because let's be honest, their audience does have a certain disposition. And let me explain what I mean by that. When I did this video going after Loretta Lynch, because Loretta Lynch comes out and says that, we're under assault, we're under attack. This kind of rally of the troops, like Donald Trump has been elected and he's coming to round people up. Like it was one of those type of speeches and you look at the speech and you're like, but it was your guy that passed the National Defense Authorization Act, allowing them to lock up people in black sites. That was your guy. Like how are you doing this? How are you making this kind of hysteria like this? That video was probably one of my top videos when it first started. And I was reading the comments on that video, and some of the comments chilled me to my bone in the way that some of the people were looking at the video. Because for my context, it was, here's an attorney general who is flipping out purely for political ends in order to whip up a hysteria for a group, for Democrats. Whereas from their context, it was an African-American is talking about another African-American. And I love this. And I looked at those videos like, oh God. And it made me hate the video. Like it literally made me look at the video because I looked at it through their context and through their lens and realized that the context of what I was saying was irrelevant to them. That it became more along the thing of this person's color attacking somebody else of this particular color who they don't particularly like, sometimes maybe for their particular color. It had nothing to do with race. It had everything to do with one party in a political context. I would imagine in Fox News, like you said, I am using Fox News because I want to get my perspective out to that audience. And so on that, I fully agree with you. There are a lot of Trump supporters and, watch my channel. By the same token, we know that Fox News is also getting something out of this.
Absolutely. Just like CNN is getting something out of it. Just like MSNBC is getting something out of it. Yeah. Just like Politico is getting something out of it. I mean, I've been in media my entire life. My mother was a news director's assistant, growing
Oh,
up.
and by the way, I don't mean that as a pejorative. Like, I don't mean
Yeah,
that
no,
as a
no.
negative. I just mean
No,
that
no,
kind
no,
of
no.
as
I mean it, but it's
yeah.
a fact. I mean, I grew up in the media. I get it. We all get something out of it. There's no question with that. I mean, so I get something out of it when I'm on national TV, regardless of what it is. But CNN or MSNBC, they're not necessarily quick to book my anti-establishment
No,
view.
they're not. No, they
so,
are
so
not.
you only have one other option. You know
No,
what I
they
mean?
are not. You would
So again,
never get.
I'm fine with that. I'm so fine with that. But
There's a
to use
video.
what I said,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
right? But to use what I said before Senator Turner even got to our revolution,
2017, yeah, it was
right? As a way, like she can't make her own decisions, are trying to use me to tear her down. That's the only problem that I have.
Yeah.
I can do a show every day about my decisions, about my comments. I'm grown. But to try to play a game like this and then organize these individuals in California and Nevada specifically against her, the real truth had to be exposed, because that's what it was. That's what it was. It's no ifs, ands, and buts about it. They claim Latino issues are not getting enough. It's a multifaceted organization. It's not just Latino issues. They have to cover all issues. And people tell me that all the time. Well, can't you do both? Well, every time I do both, I'm always left at the bottom of the barrel. And I do both. Even still, I do both. I push both. But the minute I say something about an issue that's important to me, once again, I'm being racist. I'm being a bigot. I'm being divisive. I mean, people are literally proving the point on why I said what I said.
Yeah. I don't think you're wrong on that. I mean, I guess I look at it as you have Democratic Party tends to overemphasize identity. That's what I think. I honestly believe that. Mm-hmm. And in that overemphasis of identity, I think they use that in order to avoid talking about economic issues. So Martin Luther King is okay to talk about only from the context of him being anti-racist, but not in the context of being a socialist or him being anti-imperialist. It's the way that this thing is parsed out.
But guess what they also do? They over-identify, but guess whose identity they still don't talk about? Black folks. So I agree with what you're saying.
Yeah.
But only talk about Black folks when it is emotionally convenient.
Yes.
When you can go and say, oh, I got hot sauce in my bag, and like Hillary Clinton did. When you can go to the churches and say, I stand by Black. So yeah, it's overused.
I think I kind of go ahead. I'm sorry. I kind of agree.
The Black issue, when you get down to actually talking about the nuts and bolts of it, when you go beyond the emotion, beyond let's get upset, somebody's racist. And you get down to the nuts and bolts of it, when you say, let me see, all of the crime that has been ripping through the hood all over America has been ran by Democrats.
Yeah.
When it gets down to talking about the issues, that's where, exactly. That's
true.
Where.
No, so I agree with you on. Okay. I think we're saying the same thing. You're saying emotion. And I think I know what you mean. It's rhetoric. It's not real world. Like the housing thing, where Obama is throwing his body on the bankers, and yet all of these homeowners are going bust, where the majority of Black wealth was held in homes. I mean, that's a big deal. Like you had all of this money that faded away. And a lot of this had to do with home ownership. And yet home ownership was the thing that took a major hit during that presidency. They give lip service to that stuff. But, when you get down to brass tacks of, okay, what are we going to do to back up what we're saying? It's air. It's utterly air. Mm-hmm. But let me ask you this. So media, I often ask my audience, are they incompetent or are they lying? And I can never tell which. So like you say, each media organization has its own particular point of view in regards to the way it goes about affairs. Donald Trump fires off missiles in Syria. Nobody in the media says, wait a minute, A, is that legal? B, is Syria threatening to attack the United States? C, did they even do it? What you're considering or what you're calling them, saying that they did. Nobody asks that. Corporate media looks up and says, this is the first time that this person is seen presidential. It's amazing, when you watch it. Do they know this, or is there a point of view just that fixed? Like I can never tell when Brian Williams is saying something like the light of these missiles ignite my heart, or whatever he said, that little poem as Donald Trump fired missiles illegally into a country, killing certain Syrians. Is there a point of view just that warped, or is that? I'm having a hard time answering this question from the context of being on Fox News. But does the media know what they're doing when they're doing stuff like that? Is this just we have a certain point of view, Or is this the media organization itself kind of influences and pushes that point of view?
I'm gonna do it in a very simple term, quoting Jay-Z. It's bottom line is big pimping. I mean, just bottom line. Politicians pimp, people, the media pimps to sell papers,
Yes.
pastors pimp. So it's just like when we look at MLK when he brought the churches into the fold, as a way to show our strength. Now that's flipped to actually pimping black folks in the church.
Yes, it is.
If the pastor says, "Oh, vote for so and so," they all vote, line up with no questions.
Black Miss Leadership class. That's what Glenn Ford.
It's a pimp game across the board. That's why I rarely trust any of them. So of course, media, they're very competent, know exactly what they're doing. They're there to sell papers. They're there to please people, whatever it takes to sell papers. It's all about ratings. Politicians are doing whatever they need to do for more power. Not all of them, but a lot of them. Even great friends of mine that I know. Because they have to, what is this person going to say? Well, they're going to say this, and they're going to say that. And I can't say this because this is going to say this, can't say it. I can't stand it. That's why I was a candidate for just a couple of weeks and was totally off the ballot because I can't stand it. But I'm a very good consultant on telling people what you're supposed to say and not supposed to say. But when it comes to me on what I'm going to say and what I'm not going to say, I've never done well with that. So I'm a better pundit. So, I think it is what it is. And until we start having more honest dialogue, support more independent media like yourself, Tim Black, myself, people who are unrestricted, unbossed and unbought, we'll continue to get stories that have bias. And it's always important, that we recognize bias. I'm a Florida Supreme Court mediator on the civil, the circuit, and the appellate. Mm-hmm. Despite the no experience. And every time that you sit at the table, you always trying to identify a person's bias. What do they lean to? Bias doesn't mean a bad thing.
Agreed.
But what is your motivation behind trying to get what it is that you want?
Agreed.
And we have come to a place in this country that no matter what, whatever it takes to win, whatever it takes to receive power, whatever it takes to whatever, that our bias is a heavy influence in what's doing what's right for the people.
Yes, it is.
We don't have to agree. We don't have to have the same opinion, same bias. But what you do want to do is we can't just blame the media if we're not doing the work to actually inquire, to be curious, to find another side of the story. So if we don't do that, then we're also guilty of the same thing as well. So I don't want to take up a lot more of your time because I want to make sure that people hear this thing from beginning to end.
Yeah.
So I want to thank you for one, putting the story out there. That's how I found it.
No,
and
I appreciate you
being willing to interview me, to actually hear another side of it. And the people can believe what they want to believe. They either believe the facts that I mentioned, which are clear in the article. One, the consultant already left. Two, how many times has your own organization went out and blasted the leader? Three, the statement that admitted that my screenshots were found in December, and this is now May, but yet nothing was said. Four, look at how fast Senator Turner's leadership has went up.
Yeah.
Nationally. She was already nationally known through the campaign. She was on MSNBC in 2012 before this, but each year she gets stronger. Five, of course, the establishment ran with it, and all of the things you said were true. Look at all of those things. Look at what my motivation would be with me getting out and standing up for her. Look at the motivation of somebody who wants to run for office and why they would do what they do to tear down Senator Sanders, the movement, and everything associated with it. It's really clear. It's 2 and 2. Put it together and you'll figure it out. So I want to thank you, for the opportunity to speak for those who cannot, those leaders that I do respect, and because they deserve a voice too. So I appreciate it.
I thank you very much for coming on. I was going to say, was there any last comments? I always give the person the last comment to see. But let me ask one last question. I'm sorry. From an anti-establishment standpoint, I look at what takes place with regards to our revolution and some of the Democrats, and I think they're politically abused. Like they're the equivalent of a political abuse spouse. I often say they beat you, they slap you, they're, this crack addicted, person. And yet progressives and lefties who consider themselves lefties stay. And they cry and they whine and they stay. You can look at their Twitter and Facebook accounts, how, we're angry. Democrats did this, Democrats did that. And yet they're still voting for that particular party, regardless of whoever takes into the thing. I often wonder this question about Nina Turner. When I read the story and I saw that you were a part of this, I actually said, good. I thought it was good that she brought you on, because I was looking at your Fox News stuff and I said, I'm often wondering where her head is. I think Nina Turner wants the best for our revolution. I think if you're looking for somebody who propagates a workable point of view similar to Sanders, I think Nina Turner is an excellent choice. And from my standpoint, it's somebody who I say, okay, I believe her. I think that's fair. I like I like the person they put it, even if I don't fully agree that she can
Mhm,
accomplish what she's trying to accomplish, which is reinstalling the Democratic Party. I at the
mhm,
very least think she wants to do it. Like, if that makes sense.
mhm.
Um, does she really believe that she can reinstall the Democratic Party? And is there any point? And I'm asking you this, and you may have no way of answering this question, but I'm going to ask it anyway because you're standing here, and I don't have Nina Turner in front of me, so I'm going to use you as a proxy to see what's on her mind. If I could pluck this what's on her mind. If you can't
Yeah.
understand it, does she full well honestly believe that she's going to reinstall the Democratic Party? And number two, is there any point where she says, "Okay, I'm done"?
Yeah.
Like, is there
You
any
know,
level where she gets to where you are saying, "I'm done"? And her bringing you on, I thought to myself, maybe she's close to that point. Not so much that she's like, "I'm done," leaving the party and everything else, but at the very least, she realizes it is going to be hell, if not impossible, to change the way this party is.
she understands the importance of having various views. She understands the importance of people still being human beings, regardless of their opinions. She talks about it in her speeches all the time. Her brother being a Republican, but it doesn't stop her from loving her brother.
Right.
She does believe, she quotes Stephen Covey all the time, to say seeks first to be understood, and then, to understand, I believe. She talks about it all the time. She believes that her plot in life is to be someone that um, refuses to have the Democrat Party push her out.
Yes.
She's someone that believes that just because they don't like her opinion doesn't mean she's going to leave. She's kind of like that Jennifer Hudson, I'm telling you,
And I've been
I'm
telling
not
you, I
going
ain't
nowhere.
going nowhere.
Right. With me, I'm taking my shit up and leaving. So everybody has a different thing on how they want to handle this
I love that. I love
because,
that.
and
I
it's
hope
important.
people know what the analogy is because
Yeah.
man,
And
the
so,
intensity of that song is amazing. So the
yeah,
idea
and
that you're
so
using that
everybody
song,
has it has to be both sides, just like in music, right? So you have the song, and I'm telling you, I'm not going anywhere, and then you have Blue Contrail years ago, the '90s songs, heard it all before,
yeah,
or you have Beyonce, to the left, get on that, I'm moving, So everybody has their own view on how they want to work this thing. The bottom line is, if we're all pushing the envelope, if we're all pushing the same type of pressure, something has to break. Either they have to break on the inside, or more people are going to come on the outside. For me, being on the outside, that's why I was a consultant. I wanted to be on the outside. I wanted to do what I do on the outside. I work with outside organization. It's important. And then you have people on the inside. It requires both. I used to say it all the time. Why do you still stay? Why do people still stay? Because I don't want to be nowhere nobody want me. You know what I mean? That just don't. That's why when
right
people
there,
say,
right there.
"Oh,
I
you
asked the same
fired."
thing.
No, no, no. If you don't, if this is not in line with the board, or you feel it's something to the mission, baby, I have no problem. That's why I left the Democrat Party. If
Yeah.
I'm not seeking love and affection from somebody, that just doesn't work for me.
It's like, why am I here if I'm not wanted here?
Correct.
Like,
And so
one
I
thing
don't.
after the next gets across that I am not wanted. Ergo,
Right,
I am not going to be here.
right.
It's that simple to
And
me.
I've talked about that for years. I did Blackout 2016 and 2014 talking about the black people. If they don't give us, this was before Trump, before Hillary Clinton, before there was an issue about millennials still vote. That's why I said, "Oh, you said on Fox millennials shouldn't vote." No, I even said in 2014 that if we do not have a clear agenda, a laid out black and white agenda on what you're gonna do for black folks, then we do need to sit out and show our power because we're not winning either way. So
See,
these are
yeah,
issues.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I've always talked about being the mistress. I've always talked about being left in a wet spot. I've always talked about the political reach around. What I call with the political reach around is reaching around, making me feel good while screwing me from the back. This is what the Democrat Party has all done. This is what they thought they were going to do to me. I'm glad you found that
In
too.
a wet spot.
Yeah, but I'm talking about this for years.
but
This
but
is,
but you're right. I mean,
but
it
that's
took
what it is.
me.
And who
You're
wants
right.
to be left in a wet spot?
You're
This
right.
is talked about for years.
When
No,
Hillary Clinton got 90% of the black vote, and I said to myself, why on earth is that woman getting 90% of the black vote?
right.
I didn't
So
understand it.
and I don't understand it, and I don't like it, and I don't like the fact that I have to fight my own while I'm fighting for my own.
Yeah.
You don't think black folks get mad at me, for being on Fox, even though I'm fighting for them? Oh no, we have a real battle because I have to fight internally, I gotta fight externally, I have to fight people say, "Oh, why do you care about them if they don't care about you?" I mean, it comes every which way.
Yeah.
This is not an easy journey to organize while black. Not to say anybody else's journey while they're organizing while LBGT or while immigrant or while a woman or while whatever. Nobody's saying that their journey is any easier. What I'm saying is recognize my journey. And you don't get to pick and choose what's important to me. You can certainly critique me. I can certainly be educated. I certainly absolutely can grow. I'm all about growing. Hey, you know what? I made that parallel, not because it wasn't an accurate parallel, but the word choice was poor. It
Yeah.
hurt people. I don't want to hurt anybody. I'm a veteran. Shout out to Memorial Day to all the veterans that left that have given their life to this country. I'm an Air Force veteran and I signed up to be an M60 gunner, not a paperwork pusher.
Let's be
Nothing
honest.
about
That
me is
didn't
scary.
hurt anybody. I mean, come on. That was used as this kind of political stunt in order to have a go at you. I have a hard time believing somebody saw that and was broken by that particular statement. And as much
Well,
as the
that's
media,
what
the
they say,
newspaper,
and so and that's what they say.
I'm skeptical.
But if they were broken, okay, no problem. But don't break Senator Turner. Break me.
Yeah,
Come after
yeah,
me.
I'm skeptical.
Because you can come after me all day long. I don't get on TV saying the things I say, not expecting people to come after me. But go after
Yeah,
Senator Turner for what she's done, not what somebody else did while they weren't even on the payroll. That's a bunch of
yeah.
BS, period.
No, I
And
agree.
they
I
know it.
agree.
And if
I
this
agree.
was Politico, would have been better if they should have dropped the dime without signing their name and just said they heard, you know. But because they blatantly signed their name as if a way to throw a threat in her face that, yes, I told you so, I was going to do XYZ, going against their responsibility as a board member shows that this crap about, oh no, we're going to move forward and move better and get better is a bunch of crap. They didn't give a damn about how it hurt Sanders, the movement, or anybody else, how it's hurt those employees that are still there, people that I worked with and how they
Yeah.
feel. People were really distraught, you know, behind that, really, because they went in internally and started manipulating the minds of people. So people forgot about what it was like to work with me the last 6 months. People forgot about, but this is what's happening, especially when we put black people on trial. You create a case and you forget all about what the person did before. You forget all about the evidence. Let's look at the evidence. The evidence shows that I'd already left.
Yeah.
That's why Attorney Crump, he's doing a whole series about innocent evidence of innocence about people who were wrongfully incarcerated. He's
Mhm.
going back and looking at the evidence. This is what happened to me. I was supposed to just sign a plea deal and just not go to court and never get on the stand. So what
Yeah.
I did was create my own court and tell my own story, and that's what we'll continue to do because this issue must be addressed within the progressive movement. It wasn't my plan to address it. It wasn't my goal to address it. My goal was to make sure she went where she was supposed to get there. But
Yeah.
now since they made it an issue, now you damn right I'm going to address it. I'm going to continue to address it because now to me it must be God's plan, in the words of Drake, to address this and have this conversation
Well,
repeatedly. Because
at the
what I'm
very
not going
least,
to do is shut up.
you should definitely explain the failures of that political article because there were many. So thank you very much for coming
Thank
on the
you.
show. And I completely appreciate you coming on the
I
show.
appreciate you.
Like I said, I understood where you were coming from. I went through some of the stuff where you were having the conversation with Tim Black. I went through your things for Fox News. There was nothing in the Fox News thing that bugged me. There was nothing that I think you said that I haven't either said or intimated myself. You can be an advocate for multiracial justice
Mhm.
without necessarily being. Oh, look, I didn't think it was a real thing. Honestly, I took this as a political hit job. So I appreciate you greatly for coming on and
Thank you.
explaining your
I
side of this.
appreciate it.
All
I
righty.
appreciate
All right, guys. I'm going to end this here. If you enjoy the content, please feel free to share, like, subscribe, and of course, you guys can always support the patron. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
And we are, if I can find my mouse, we are